Welcome once more to our today's session. If, for example, I come to my Mozilla Firefox and I launch a website like firewall.cx and hit enter, normally the website is able to resolve and bring me its interface like this. Now, if I want to get the IP address of this website, I am going to copy this, and what I'm going to do is I will do a DNS or an NS lookup to get the IP address of this website. Now, the IP address is down here. I am going to copy this IP address. Observe keenly, please. When I copy this IP address, what I'm going to do is that I want to block access to this IP address. So what I will do is I will do iptables dash a, capital A, I give it an input dash s, and then I point it to the IP address which I want to block using iptables. Then I give it a dash J, then I say drop packages that are coming from this IP address, and I hit enter. Now it returns back with nothing. This shows that I have successfully set a rule using IP tables, meaning that if I type just a ping and I give it or I point it to that IP address like this, you see that the IP address is not running. It shows that this website is not up and running. So if I now come back here and I give it firewall.cx, that is the same website or the same domain, you see that it will continuously be running like this and it will not resolve. That is because I have used IP tables to block this IP address. I have filtered traffic with respect to this IP address. So in our today's tutorial, what we are going to be doing is that we are going to look at how we can use IP tables to block or to accept traffic. So we are going to start with the installation of IP tables. I am going to show you how to set input roles in IP tables, how to accept and drop roles in IP tables, how to set permanent roles, how to insert roles within already existing firewall roles in IP tables, how to blacklist an IP address or an IP address range in IP tables using ipset, and we are going to end by learning how to delete the above mentioned roles. But before continuing, what is this IP tables all about? IP tables is simply a command line firewall utility that is used to set or to block traffic with respect to pre-given roles. That is, think of IP address or think of IP tables like a bouncer that is standing in front of a nightclub. His work is either to accept traffic, to reject traffic, or to drop that traffic. So IP tables, I'm going to stop this and I'm going to do some explanation before we continue. So IP tables can either block traffic with respect to given tables, chains, and rules. Now, what are tables? Tables are simply a broad category of rules that are given by the user. So I am going to show you what is happening here using tables. And this broad category of tables are formed with respect to blocks. So a block refers to subcategories that belong to tables. And then we have chains. Chains are a list of rules applied by a user, a list of rules applied by a user, like what I just did now. So I am going to show you how to use these rules to either block traffic, accept traffic, to give it input rules, output rules, and forward rules. When I say an input rule, what do I mean? If I am using IP tables and I'm giving it an input rule, what I mean is that I want to accept incoming traffic, and if I am giving it an output rule, it means I want to block outgoing traffic, or I want to deal with outbound traffic. And if I am giving it a forward rule, it means that my operating system may want to act like a server or like a middleman between one device and another. So I want to receive traffic and forward to another device. So without wasting much time, let us leave the theory part of it and get into the practical part of IP tables. Now that we have known what IP tables are, so what are we now going to do? The first thing we are going to be doing is that I am going to show you how to install IP tables. For you to install IP tables, you can do a sudo That is in the case whereby you are not a root user, but in my case, I am already a root user. So in your case, if you are not a root user, you're going to do a sudo and you do apt install ip tables -y for yes, and you hit enter, and you now see that it gives us everything. It says it is upgraded and that it is done, meaning that our IP table has already been installed. Now, after installing IP tables, you may want to check the version of these IP tables. So what are you going to do? You do IP tables or sudo IP tables dash version, and you hit enter, and you see that our IP tables, the current version is version 1.8.10. I am going to clear my screen again, and the next thing that you may want to do is that you want to get a detailed information or check the current rules that exist in these IP tables. Now, if I do IP tables, I give it a -L, capital L, and I hit enter, you see rules that are existing. Now, when I started this tutorial, the first thing I did was I gave it a drop rule. The drop rule which I gave it was meant to block this website here, and that is why you are seeing that the connection has timed out, because this website is not running. That was because I gave it this rule here. So this is how you check the rules which you may have set using IP tables. Now, the next thing I want to do is that I want to start giving firewall rules, or I want to start giving IP table rules which I want it to run on this operating system. But before doing that, I am going to reset all these rules so as to make sure that this website is running, and then we are going to start from afresh. So what I'm going to do is that I am going to clear my screen. I will clear my screen, and I am going to give it IP tables. I give it a -F, capital F, to flush, and I give it input. What I'm doing here is that I want to reset every IP table rule to make sure that I start from the beginning, so that this website is going to be running, to make sure that everything is in its default configuration before we can continue our tutorial. So I'm going to hit enter. When I hit enter, I will now do IP tables, and I give it a -L to see if that rule is still existing. And if we come here, you will now see that that rule is no longer applicable. That input rule is no longer here, meaning that if I now come back here and I hit enter like this, I expect this website now to run. You can now see that this website is running, meaning that if I come down here and I clear my screen, and I ping that IP address, you see now that the IP address or that website is now up and running, and it is now bringing us ICMP echo request. So I am going to stop this or abort, clear my screen, and now it is time for us to start giving IP table rules. So think of these IP table rules like a set of rules you are giving a firewall to either accept traffic, to block traffic, or to forward traffic to a particular server. So for us to give IP tables, or for us to configure our IP table to get the firewall rules which we may want to configure, the first thing I want you to understand is that IP table deals with input, output, and forward rules, like I said at the beginning of this tutorial. Now, let us understand what these input rules are and what these output as well as forward rules are. Now, if you do IP tables capital L -N, it brings us everything that you need in IP tables. Now, if you look here critically, you're going to see an input rule here. Input rules stands for rules that are going to be telling IP address or IP tables about how incoming traffic is going to behave. Forwarding rules are going to be telling IP tables how we want to forward traffic from system to system. It could be that your system could be a middleman between one computer and another. So you want to give it a forward rule. You want that your system or your operating system receives traffic from one device and forward it to another device. And then an output rule, you use output rules whenever you want to assign outbound traffic in your operating system. So this is how it functions. So now the next thing that you may want to consider doing is, now that we know what the input, the output, and the forward rule does, the next thing I want us to do is that we want to now start assigning various IP table rules to our Ubuntu operating system. The first thing you may want to consider looking at is a rule with respect to secure shell. Secure shell is a protocol that enables you to communicate with the outside world. So you want to consider first of all configuring this rule so as to make sure that you are able to connect to the internet, because if you don't do it, you will not be able to connect to the internet. That is in a real world, that is in an enterprise situation. So you are going to give it IP tables. You give it a dash A, capital A. You give it input, and then you give it a dash P for ports. Give it a TCP because it is running on TCP, and then you give it a destination port. And then since secure shell is port 22, you give it 22, and you give it a dash J, whereby this dash J is pointing to how that rule is going to behave, and we want to accept traffic. So we want to accept traffic from the secure shell, and secure shell is port 22, it's port 22, and you give it enter. It comes back with nothing. This shows that our IP table rule has been set. And if you go back here and you do IP tables -L and you scroll up, you are going to see that you're going to see accept TCP anywhere TCP, and you are seeing secure shell here because port 22 stands for secure shell. So that is the first rule that we have given IP tables, or we've set in our IP tables. Now the second rule that we are going to be giving it is, before doing that, let me clear my screen again. The second rule I want to give it is, I am going to bring back that first rule, and what I want to do is to come here and give it a rule like a rule for web traffic, which is port 443 HTTPS, and I hit enter. Now it comes back with nothing, showing that that rule has been set. You may want to also, only for demonstration purposes, we know that port 80 is vulnerable, but we may just want to give it, or instead of accepting traffic from port 80, let us instead drop that traffic. So I give it a drop. It comes back with nothing, showing that that rule has been set. And we may want to consider the rule for POP, Post Office Protocol, which is 1110. And I want to give it, or I want to accept traffic. So I give it accept traffic and I hit enter. Now, if I go back here, I give it IP tables -L and I hit enter. If I scroll up, you will now see that these are the rules that I just set here. I said accept TCP connection from this protocol, and it is secure shell. You are seeing HTTPS here. You are seeing HTTP, and you are seeing Post Office Protocol version 3. I am saying that when it comes to a protocol like Post Office Protocol version 3, accept traffic. If it comes to HTTP, which is vulnerable, drop that traffic. If it comes to HTTPS, which is secure, accept that traffic. And when it comes to remote connection using secure shell, also accept traffic. This is how you accept, or this is how you set IP tables rules, by either accepting or dropping those rules. So now what I am going to do is that I am going to clear my screen. And now that I've shown you how to either accept or block traffic, the next thing I want to do is I will now want to let you know how you can number or give a set of numbers to these IP table rules which you may have set. How do you do this? First of all, if I give it IP tables -L and I give it --line -numbers, let me type and then I explain what I'm doing, -n, and I hit enter. Now what I've done here is that I have said IP tables, give me a list of everything that we have been doing, and when you are doing it, do line numbering. on these rows. So what are these line numberings? It's basically these numbers here: number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. So what is the first IP table rule? It is accept traffic, which is secure shell from port 22. The second one is accept traffic from HTTPS, which is port 443. So this line numberings is simply numbering the number of rows here. Why do we do this? You are doing this so that if in case you may want to drop traffic or you may want to change any of these rows, you will not necessarily want to be giving it port 22, but you will just come and you give it the number. Now, let me do it here in practical terms. So now our target is that we want to remove, or we want to do away with the third rule here, which says drop traffic. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I will come down here and I will do IPtables. I give it a -d, capital D, and then I give it input and I give it 3. Okay, and I hit enter. So if you scroll up, if I scroll up here, now this is the command I just gave here, right? The first command I gave was this IPtables-d input 3, meaning that I want to drop that third row, which was for HTTP port 80. Okay, so if you now look here, you see that we have 1, 2, 3 rows. The first rule is for secure shell, the second is for port 443, which is HTTPS, and the third rule, which was port 80, has already been taken away. If I go up there, look at it. This is what we had. We had port 80 here, but now when you go down, you now discover that port 80 is no longer here. That is because I have given it IPtables-d input, and then I've given it 3, and that 3, the previous number, which was 3, has been taken off, which was directed to port 80, which is HTTP, and then the current 3 now is for POP, for port 110. Okay, and that is the reason why we are using line numberings. It helps us to be able to either insert a rule on our IPtables or delete a rule at ease without necessarily giving it pointing the various ports. You just give it the number and it does the job. So that is how the insert rule is done. Now the next thing I want to do is that I am going to clear my screen. I am going to come down here. I'll clear my screen. And what I want us to do now is that all these rules you have set are not permanent. This means that if you do everything and you reboot your system, you are going to lose every configuration that you may have set in your operating system. So we now want to see a situation whereby you set these rules and now you are able to save them for later use, or so that they remain there permanently. And that is where I am going to introduce you to what is known as ipset. So what is ipset? ipset is simply a utility that helps us. It's written as ipset. This is a utility that helps us to be able to set a persistent connection on our IPtables so that we can be able to have permanent rules that are set, that can be able to help the system function even if our system is rebooted. How do you do this? You do a sudo apt. That is in the case whereby you are not a root user. Sudo apt install ipset. Okay, and you hit enter, and now it starts loading and searching. It's already installed in my system. That's why I see ipset is already in its newest version here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this. Okay, it stopped on its own. So I am just going to clear my screen. And now that you have successfully, or we have successfully installed our ipset, the next thing I want to continue doing, or want to consider doing now, is that if you want to set persistent roles as well as doing blacklisting on your operating system to blacklist a particular set of IP addresses, what do you do? So the first thing you do is, if you want to blacklist a particular set of IP addresses, you are going to do sudo apt, but we are already root user, so there's no need using sudo. So you just do iptables. You just do iptables or ipset create. You want to create a rule or a blacklist rule. Give it blacklist, and then give it hash, and I give it an IP. So what does this mean? I am telling my Ubuntu operating system, look, use ipset and create a blacklist. And when you are doing it, use this pre-configured rule in ipset known as hash.ip. So it's going to now look at a set of IP addresses. It's like I'm creating a folder, and in that folder, I want to insert a set of blacklisted IP addresses which I don't want them. I don't want to either accept or to connect with over my operating system. So if I hit enter, it said that ipset cannot be created. Set the same name. It already exists, meaning that I had already set this. So what I'm going to do is that I am going to clear my screen, and what I want to consider now doing is that I now want to give a list of IP addresses that I want to blacklist. Okay, so if I want to give a list of IP addresses that I want to blacklist, I'll give ipset, and I say add to blacklist. I give blacklist, and then I give the IP address. Let's say the IP address is 192.168.40.130. I hit enter. I give another one. If I want to add another IP address that I want to blacklist, maybe 122, I give it, and then, and so on and so forth. That is how you add blacklist to a system. Now, if you want to see this list of IP addresses that you have blacklisted, what are you going to do? You do ipset, and you give list, and then you give that blacklist, and you hit enter. Now, these are the blacklisted IP addresses here. These are all the blacklisted IP addresses that I've just done here, and you can see them here. Meaning that any of these IP addresses that may want to connect to our operating system will not be able to get to us because they are considered malicious. They have been blacklisted and they cannot reach us. If you want to do away with one of these IP addresses which you may have blacklisted in this list of IP addresses here, what you basically do is that you do iptables, and then you give it not iptables, sorry, you give it ipset, you give it del, who stands for delete, and then you point it to that blacklist, and then you give that IP address 192.168.40.122. So what we are doing now is that we want to remove this IP address from this set of blacklisted IP addresses. So I'm going to hit enter here, and what I want to do now is that I want to check the list of blacklisted IP addresses to see if this 122 is still in that list. So if I hit enter, if you come down now here, you'll see that it has already been removed from the set of blacklisted IP addresses in our list. So this is how you remove blacklisted IP addresses. Now take note. Let me clear my screen again. Everything we have been doing here has been great, but you have to understand that if you don't save your work, it means that the moment you reboot your operating system, everything is going to disappear and these rules are not going to apply. So what then do you do to make sure that these rules are permanent? To make sure that these rules are permanent, we are going to do apt install, and you are going to install iptables dash persistent. And when you do this now, you hit enter, and whatever you do here now, you save it. And how do you save it? I am not going to set persistent on my own system, but after installing this, the next thing that you will be expected to do is you do sudo net filter net filter dash persistent, and then you take save. And the moment you hit enter, everything is now going to save in your operating system, and now you can be able to apply these rules the way you want it. Now, after doing everything with this tutorial, the next thing I want to show you now is how to delete these rules and set back every configuration to your default configuration. It's simple. You just need to come here and do IPtables dash F to flush everything, and you give it input, because most of the rows that we use were input rows. You give it input and you hit enter. So this shows that if I bring back this command here now and I give it dash L, okay, and I hit enter, you now see that all the rows have been removed from this system. If you want to prove further, you do dash L, you remove this input, give it a dash N, give it a dash N, and you hit enter. Now, if I scroll up here, you see that all those rows that we set on this system have been deleted. Even the number rows has been deleted from our operating system. And this is how you use IPtables to configure or to filter both inbound or outbound traffic. Thank you for watching this tutorial till the end, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.